Ladies and gentlemen, William Barr confirmed exactly what I was saying, what I've been saying for 3 years, and for over 2 years. 3 years since the start of this nonsense. And exactly what I wrote. James Clapper knew there was no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion in 2016. H.A. Goodman, April 24, 2019, in The Federalist. The article's below. Clapper told Chuck Todd, there's no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. There's no evidence at all, Chuck. There's nothing I can do. Don't ask me again. There's just no evidence. He literally told Chuck Todd they do not have any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, yet they still investigated. So for 3 years, you would hear Trump without evidence states, Trump without evidence. They did the same thing, but instead what they did was they didn't have evidence, but they would always defer to intelligence chiefs saying, well, we think it's possible. That was their evidence, and it still is. Notice how the articles of impeachment do not cite anything to do with Trump-Russia. That's because they found nothing. It was completely set up and fabricated. James Clapper knew there was no evidence of Trump-Russia. He still investigated. William Barr confirmed exactly what I've been saying for 3 years. Barr, by the time Trump took office, it was clear there was no basis to Papadopoulos page allegations. This is a Fox News article. Attorney General William Barr told the story with Martha MacCallum Wednesday that by the time Trump was inaugurated in January 2017, it had become clear that allegations raised against former Trump campaign associate George Papadopoulos as a result of the FBI's Russia investigation were largely baseless. They had nothing. They had a dossier purchased by Clinton. None of the dossier was used to indict anyone. It was complete nonsense. It was fantasy, basically Bill Clinton's fantasies. It was complete and utter just fiction. There was no truth to it, yet they utilized it and they called it raw intelligence. Then they said, well, an Australian ambassador went to us and stated that he learned from one of Trump's campaign aides, staffers, George Papadopoulos, that a Maltese professor told him that they knew of dirt on Hillary Clinton, or they knew of the DNC emails before the DNC emails took place. Mifsud stated he never told Papadopoulos that. Papadopoulos said he never told Downer that. How did Downer find out? The key issue here is they used gossip and hearsay from an Australian ambassador that told them about something that didn't happen yet. But the two people that he attributed this knowledge to both stated they never told Downer anything. So the question is, how did he know about the DNC email hack, the alleged DNC email hack that the ODNI and DHS reports are only confident but not certain took place? Then you have Papadopoulos serving 12 days in jail because of a process issue. He forgot the date. If you read his book, he forgot the date of an email sent. And then he forgot what the date was that he communicated with Mifsud, and that was obstruction of justice. They tried to get him on that. So all of this was nonsense. This almost religious fervor, this zealotry regarding dirt on Hillary. They literally reached out to the Ukraine. And then when Trump tries to find out, and with his government, so when his government tries to find out about the DNC reaching out to the Ukraine, a person named Chalupa and perhaps others, then it's, oh my God, you can't do this. But William Barr states, so there was no evidence at all. Papadopoulos has denied telling Downer that Russia would release damaging material about Clinton in the run-up to the 2016 election. And so But Barr told Martha MacCallum the story that the claims allegedly made by Papadopoulos in that conversation with Downer were already being handled about in the press and inside, were already being bandied about in the press and inside the Beltway. At the time of the comments made by Papadopoulos that the Russians might have something that they would drop in the public that were adverse to Hillary, that was during a period of rampant speculation in the media and political circles. Barr said many people were wondering at the time about whether Russian actors had hacked Clinton's private server that was stored inside her Westchester County, New York home and gotten hold of sensitive emails and other information they could drop to hurt her. Well, of course they had emails. They had all of her top secret and special access program intelligence. The issue, even Comey admitted to that. The issue is that Russian intelligence services are not going to say, oh, by the way, thank you for all these top secret intelligence we've stolen from you. Because they cheated Bernie Sanders and it was such a debacle, they then said that Russia interfered in the election by hacking the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. To lead the conclusion that it showed knowledge of a later hack into the DNC was a pretty aggressive conclusion. I just think that by the time the president entered office, around that time it was becoming clear that there was no basis to these allegations, not just the Steele dossier falling apart, but the information that they were relying on as to Page and Papadopoulos. So he's 100% right. I mean, if you're William Barr, you're basically looking at the FBI saying the following: it's important to understand that the FBI is one of the pillars of our democracy, protecting us and ensuring that the lives of 320 million Americans aren't adversely affected by negative actors. So I feel a bit perturbed that the FBI would utilize a dossier that stated Trump enjoyed bodily fluids raining down upon him in a hotel room. Again, that could be national security, or it could be the rantings and ravings of Bill Clinton, writing in a diary that they then used for the dossier. The chances are very low that Madam Secretary enjoyed that behavior, but we're open to the prospects. Then they said that it was national security regarding the DNC emails, where they tried to paint Bernard Sanders as an atheist so that Hillary Clinton could win. That's also problematic because nothing to do with the DNC is national security. It would be equivalent to looking at excerpts of a Dr. Seuss book that happened to be spread all through the internet and launching an ICBM missile strike at the Russians based on the Dr. Seuss hacking. Things don't just add up, and we're on the we're getting to the bottom of everything with John Durham. I just want everyone to know that I respect and almost revere the FBI to the point of tears. I love them and would never accuse them of anything that wasn't above board. So he's caught between a rock and a hard place. William Barr. He doesn't want to he doesn't want to accuse Comey of setting up and framing Trump, which is the 18 U.S. Code 371 statute. That's what Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, Kleinsmith, all of them did. They falsified information and, basically made up things to deceive FISA judges. When they falsified information and just made things up, whether it was the Steele dossier or the FISA applications with Carter Page, the pretext was simply, well, we have to look into it. The underlying basis for all of this was, well, we don't know if it's true, we have to look into it. But that's not exactly how counterintelligence investigate. First of all, the counterintelligence is supposed to be used against other intelligence agencies, not against the United States of America, not against people within the United States of America. Furthermore, Trump should have known that his campaign was being investigated. He did not. That's why they got Michael Flynn. They totally set up and framed General Michael Flynn. He should be free. He should be pardoned. He is free, but he should be pardoned completely. And all of these people, the legal fees that all these people, all 34 plus people, the legal fees that they all spent should be reimbursed by the United States government. So the interesting thing here is that Democrats are playing a very, very, they're playing a game where they can only lose in the end. First of all, Clinton's going to run again. So that's not, I'm 100% right about that. Clinton, people say, well, I guess, it hasn't happened. Yeah, well, do you think they're going to go with Biden? They're not going with Biden. It's not happening. So whether it's a brokered convention, I don't care when. A week before Super Tuesday, a week after Super Tuesday, a brokered convention, who cares? No matter what regardless of what happens, I will be right in 2017. It'll be the biggest political call of all time. In the Huffington Post, I wrote, Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump, because that's what's going to take place. But all of this is for Clinton. It's not for Biden. Biden, his campaign is tanked. It has tanked from the impeachment nonsense, where President Trump had every right to look into his misconduct. The notion that he didn't have any misconduct is absurd. I mean, even people who don't like Trump, like Never Trumpers, John Kasich, he was like, well, it's true that, that there was, conflict. There were conflicts of interest. So the notion that there were no conflicts of interest, the notion that it's already documented, that the DNC reaching out to the Ukraine, I mean, all of these things are already documented. The issue here is fair play. They don't understand what fair play is. They don't get it. If they utilize the United States government to go after Trump for 3 years based on gossip, hearsay, innuendo, conjecture, media spin that was complicit. Notice how all these intelligence officials are at CNN, MSNBC, The Washington Post, and The New York Times. They're filtering nonsense into the mainstream and into people's consciousness. Notice also the same pundit that was complaining about the New York Times coverage of him when he's trying to run for California representative is also the same pundit that utilized the New York Times and the Washington Post and the whole zeitgeist around Trump to say he worked with Russia. There's no doubt he worked with Russia. Well, you know what? This pundit, who is now allegedly the biggest, one of the loudest Bernie Sanders supporters, that Bernie had to retract his endorsement from, you reap what you sow. You utilized the media to go after Trump, the same media that you knew was disingenuous, and then they went after you. That's the media. Look, liberal media is not very different most of the time from progressive media. Liberal media filters down into progressive circles. Very few progressive pundits actually keep a focused lens. Those people are then marginalized by the liberal media. That's why do you think I'm a Trump supporter now? I'm no longer part of that world or progressive or whatever. No longer, thank God. But why do you think that certain pundits get hit pieces written about them by the Daily Beast and Raw Story and others like myself, and certain pundits are just left alone on the left? The pundits that are left alone aren't a threat to any system. They're not, on anyone's radar in terms of being, a thorn in the side. But anyway, that's a whole other story. All of this was driven by by corrupt intelligence chiefs utilizing a willing media that wanted to remove Trump from office. They couldn't with the Mueller probe. It almost backfired completely on them, but they managed to salvage some kind of, exit from the Mueller probe, and they utilized really just the programming of 3 years of, he worked with another country to start with, he tried to interfere in the 2020 election. This is like sophomoric stuff. You're interfering in the election by letting people know about our potential misconduct. This is politics. In politics, if you have conflicts of interest where Hunter Biden is spending thousands and thousands smoking narcotics and a gentleman's club, this is all fair game to discuss. If Hunter is also on the board of Burisma, that's funneling millions of dollars to him, and he lost a paternity case where now the lady wants to find out exactly how much money he was paid from Burisma. This could have factored into Vice President Biden forcing out a prosecutor that was investigating the company funneling millions into his son, and it's completely irrelevant whether Senate Republicans or the Council on Foreign Relations or other European countries agreed with Biden in firing Shokin. It is completely and utterly irrelevant, because if there were conflicts of interest, if Biden benefited personally, it really is irrelevant if other other actors agreed with him in his decision to fire the prosecutor of another country and literally engage in quid pro quo. You will not get the $1 billion in loan guarantees if you do not do this. That never happened with the phone conversation with Trump. So there's a lot of assumptions. There are only assumptions with Trump, because Trump's defense is, hey, the country is corrupt. Before we gave the money, we wanted to make sure that the corruption didn't that millions upon millions of dollars didn't get into the pockets of oligarchs or government officials. You don't believe that, but you believe Biden firing the prosecutor because of the corruption, but you don't believe Trump withholding the money because of corruption. So it's these are the same people also, by the way, who say $156 million from 85 donors of the Clinton Foundation. No, they didn't spend the money to meet Clinton. These are the same people who say, UBS gives money to the Clinton Foundation, and they get hooked up with the IRS. Hillary Clinton had nothing to do with that. Uranium One gives money to the Clinton Foundation, and then President Obama vetoes the sale. It has nothing to do. Notice how President Obama has nothing to do with his Secretary of State. Nothing to do with James Comey. Absolutely nothing to do with Clapper. But Trump has everything to do with Papadopoulos and Flynn and everything that ever happens. The media has been so... everyone knows the true nature of American media now. This is why people watch my channel and Styx and a whole bunch of people. Okay, Tim Pool, Styx, HB, Kevin's Corner, Anthony Bryan Logan, Black Conservative Patriot. There's so many great channels people watch, and the reason is because you'd rather watch them than listen to CNN or MSNBC or channels with millions upon millions of subscribers who then complain about how the mainstream media is treating them when they utilize the mainstream media to go after Trump every day for the past 3 years. Okay. Interestingly, I utilize mainstream media, but I look at reputable articles to be in complete good standing with YouTube all the time. So I'll read from the Washington Post and New York Times, CNN, the Daily Beast, and within those articles, they undermine their own arguments. So it's like the public record is interesting. The Democratic Party and media will undermine their own arguments because the propaganda is always changing. So you have that article, very famous article in 2016, FBI finds no evidence. Okay, 2016. Investigating Donald Trump, FBI sees no clear link to Russia. So this is October 31st, 2016. Notice how the New York Times still has that up. Notice how There's no correction at the bottom of this. Notice how they've debunked the whole thing. I mean, William Barr should just, go ahead and read this before he starts indicting people eventually with John Durham. Investigating Donald Trump, FBI sees no clear link to Russia. This is October 31st, 2016. Okay. Law enforcement officials say that none of the investigations so far have found any conclusive or direct link between Mr. Trump and the Russian government. So, and even the hacking into the Democratic emails, FBI and intelligence officials now believe was aimed at disrupting the presidential election rather than electing Mr. Trump. So you have all of this documented. That's why when I utilize the New York Times, I do so because inadvertently they undermine their own spin. In October, before Clinton lost, they said there was nothing. After she lost, oh my God, the floodgates came in with Trump Russia. Give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right this